Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to cut through some of the noise and get you the insights you need. Today, we're plunging into that, well, often really confusing world of health supplements,
Mhm.
especially those ones promising natural detox and, gut health benefits. It's just such a crowded space, right?
Absolutely. So
We-
many claims flying around.
Exactly. And it's incredibly hard for any of us to figure out what's real and what's not. So our mission today is to take a real deep dive into one specific product. It's called Parapurge. We're using a recent review we found from the YouTube channel Mateo Guide. We're going to try and pull apart its claims, look at the evidence, or maybe the lack of it,
Right.
and hopefully, most importantly, equip you with some essential critical thinking tools for navigating this whole complex landscape.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack this thing.
Yeah, it's definitely needed. I mean, the
Yeah.
appeal of natural remedies is just so strong, and you can see why, right? People are looking for solutions that feel, I don't know, holistic, gentle.
Aligned with nature, that kind of thing.
Exactly. But that widespread interest, well, unfortunately, it also creates this fertile ground for products that maybe don't always live up to what they promise. It makes it so crucial for us, as consumers, to really look beyond the shiny labels and the marketing hype,
Yeah, I got to look under the hood.
to really understand what we're actually being asked to put into our bodies.
That's precisely why we're digging into this. So let's start with Parapurge itself. What exactly is this product? What are its core promises according to the marketing?
Well, from what the review highlights, Parapurge is basically marketed as a natural parasite cleanse.
Oh, okay.
The whole idea is that it's designed to, detox your body, specifically targeting intestinal parasites.
Right.
And by doing that, it's supposed to help rebalance your gut.
Right. Sure.
And the companies behind it, they make some pretty confident statements. They suggest it's backed by years of use, apparently,
Years of use. Okay.
and that its natural ingredients will boost energy and improve gut health, all those typical buzzwords.
Right. Right. And the review immediately flags something kind of interesting. It mentioned that you might find what looks like the exact same product, but under different brand names, all with basically the same formula.
Yeah, that's a bit of a tell, isn't it?
It certainly makes you wonder about, the originality. And what about those natural ingredients they talk about? What's actually in this stuff?
The common ones listed are things like neem leaf, wormwood, black walnut, horehound. Oh, and pumpkin seeds.
Okay, some familiar names in the sort of herbal world.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is that blend of traditional ingredients. I mean, many of these, like wormwood and black walnut, they've been used in various cultures for centuries, especially in folk remedies for things we might, broadly call intestinal discomfort or maybe suspected parasites. But, and this is a big but, it's really important to distinguish traditional use from modern scientific validation. These ingredients, as the review notes, they often come from folk remedies more than hard science.
Right. So just because it's traditional, that doesn't automatically mean it's proven effective or even safe by today's standards.
Exactly. Not by the rigorous scientific standards we use now. Traditional use has value. It points researchers in certain directions sometimes, but it's not the same as proof.
So when we hear traditional, what does that actually imply about how well it works compared to, say, a modern medicine?
Well, it implies a completely different kind of evidence base, really. Traditional knowledge is often built on, generations of observation. People tried something, maybe it seemed to help, or at least it didn't seem to cause immediate harm. So that knowledge got passed down, but it almost always lacks controlled conditions. We don't know for sure if the effect they saw was actually due to the herb itself.
Could be placebo or something else entirely.
Exactly. Whereas modern scientific validation, with clinical trials, it tries to isolate cause and effect under really strict controlled conditions. So it's not saying traditional remedies are useless, not at all. But their exact mechanism, the right dosage, their effectiveness against specific conditions, that's rarely understood or verified to the same degree.
Okay, that makes sense. And this leads us right into what the review really zeroes in on. The scientific backing, or maybe the pretty profound lack of it. The review flat out says there's very little real research behind it. So what are the specific red flags they're pointing to when it comes to the science?
Well, the biggest red flag is that most of the so-called evidence they might allude to actually comes from either animal studies or traditional use. It's not coming from robust, well-designed human clinical trials.
Okay.
And that raises a really critical question, doesn't it? What actually counts as strong scientific evidence when we're talking about human health? For a product making specific health claims, saying it can do X or Y for people, the gold standard really has to be human clinical trials.
Right, the ones with actual people, control groups.
Precisely. Carefully designed studies, comparing the product to maybe a placebo or an existing treatment, and really rigorously monitoring the outcomes. They try to control for biases and show a clear cause and effect.
So just relying on animal studies or, historical use, why isn't that good enough for something like Parapurge, especially when they're selling it directly to us?
Well, look, animal studies are often a valuable starting point in research, absolutely,
Yeah.
but they just don't translate directly to human physiology.
Mm,
Simple as that. What works in a mouse or a rat might have completely different effects, or maybe no effect at all, in a human.
right. Dosages, side effects, all different.
Exactly. Metabolism, potential side effects, it can all differ wildly between species. And as for traditional use, like we said, it's observational. It doesn't tell us if the active compounds are even present in sufficient amounts in the modern product,
Good point. Or if it interacts with other meds people might be taking.
or if there are long-term safety concerns that maybe traditional users just didn't record or connect to the remedy. And what makes this even more concerning, really, is that the review noted the companies themselves often don't link to any studies or medical sources to back up the claims right there on their websites.
So you can't even check the supposed evidence easily.
Pretty much. That lack of transparency means consumers just have no easy way to even review the limited evidence they might be hinting at.
And this seems like a good time to talk about the bigger picture, the regulatory landscape for supplements. How does the FDA actually handle products like Parapurge? Why does that matter so much for us?
Yeah, this is such a critical point. Every consumer really needs to get this. Supplements like Parapurge, they aren't closely regulated by the FDA in the same way prescription drugs or even over-the-counter drugs are. Under the law, specifically the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, or DSHEA, supplements do not need FDA approval before they hit the market.
Wait, so they don't have to prove it works or is safe first?
Nope. The manufacturer is technically responsible for ensuring the product is safe and that its claims are truthful and not misleading. But they don't have to submit safety or efficacy data to the FDA for approval before they start selling it.
Wow. Okay, so what does that practically mean for someone thinking about buying Parapose? What's the real implication of that lack of sort of upfront oversight?
Well, it means there's no real guarantee about what's actually in the bottle, for
Yeah.
starters.
Seriously?
The precise amount of the active ingredients, the purity of those ingredients, whether there are contaminants or even undeclared substances, all of that largely rests on the manufacturer's own quality control and honesty.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't an independent body like the FDA routinely verifying these things before the product gets sold.
Hmm.
So it means consumers are often operating without that really stringent safety net that pharmaceutical products are required to have.
Yeah.
You're essentially trusting the company, often without any external objective verification process in place.
That lack of external checks really puts all the burden back on the consumer, doesn't it?
It really does.
And speaking of things that make you raise your eyebrows, let's talk about the price, the marketing hype, and those, well, frankly, suspicious-sounding reviews around Parapurge. The review highlighted the financial side of it as pretty shocking. It said the product looks like it's drop-shipped. Can you maybe explain what drop-shipping is and why that should make us pause when we're talking about a health supplement?
Sure. Dropshipping is basically a retail fulfillment method.
Hmm.
The seller, the website you buy from, doesn't actually keep the products in stock themselves. Instead, when you place an order, the seller buys the item from a third party, often a manufacturer or a wholesaler,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes overseas in places like China.
Okay.
And then they have that third party ship it directly to you, the customer.
Ah, so the seller never even handles the product.
Often, no. And for a health supplement, that model just raises a ton of red flags. The company selling it is primarily just a marketing front. This usually means there's minimal quality control from their end, very limited insight into the actual manufacturing process, and often a huge markup applied to what might be a very, very cheaply produced, maybe even unbranded, generic good.
That definitely puts it in perspective. The review suggests you can find what looks like the exact same thing, same ingredients, same bottle, maybe on huge online marketplaces like Alibaba for, what, less than $5, sometimes way less.
Yeah, the cost difference can be staggering.
Yet these versions branded as Parapurge are being sold online for $40 or more, often with, fancy branding and a lot of hype. It's clear the marketing is slick, right? Designed to make it seem premium. But like the review says, it doesn't seem like there's much behind it besides that polished look. How does that marketing actually work to create such a massive perceived value for something so cheap to produce?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, this pattern just perfectly illustrates how marketing and presentation can massively inflate perceived value. It often completely overshadows the actual substance of the product or, the scientific backing or lack thereof.
Mm-hmm.
When something's presented with really slick branding, maybe some emotional testimonials, a high price tag, there's this psychological tendency for us to just assume it must be effective or high quality or backed by serious research.
It's like if it costs more, it must be better.
Exactly. That's called price anchoring.
Yeah.
And the marketing, it focuses on these aspirational benefits, boosts energy, improves gut health, rather than on hard scientific evidence.
Mm.
It taps right into people's desires for quick, easy fixes for complex health issues.
And then you get to the reviews themselves. The Mateo Guide review found they are also pretty suspicious. It noted lots of perfect five-star ratings on their own websites, but almost no critical or even neutral feedback. What does that pattern usually tell you?
Yeah, when you see that kind of overwhelming uniformity, just pages of perfect five-star reviews, and almost a complete absence of anything critical, or even just like a 3 or 4-star rating,
Right.
that's a significant warning sign.
Right. Real products usually get some mixed feedback.
Exactly.
Huh.
It often indicates these reviews might not be entirely organic or representative of real user experience. Companies sometimes use tactics like review gating, where they make it harder for negative reviews to show up, or they only prompt happy customers for reviews.
Or they just buy fake ones.
Or they buy fake reviews, absolutely. A genuinely popular and effective product will still have some varied feedback because people's bodies and experiences are different. So when you see that perfectly curated 5-star front, it should definitely make you want to dig much deeper than just their own website. It's a key indicator to, well, really do your homework, as the review says.
So putting this all together, what does this mean for you, the listener? After this deep dive, based on the Mateo Guide review, what's the bottom line here? Is Parapurge just a total scam?
The review's conclusion was actually quite balanced and I think pretty useful. It said, not exactly, but it's not very trustworthy either.
Okay.
And that really sums it up, I think. The core issues are pretty clear now. The ingredients are traditional, but not really backed by science in the way we'd expect for specific health claims.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, it seems like it's priced way higher than it's worth, mostly for profit, rather than because of any inherent value or unique proven research behind it. It kind of exists in that murky gray area, leveraging old beliefs, but lacking modern validation and transparency.
Okay, so this leads us to the really critical question for you, our listener.
Yeah.
What should you actually do if you're considering a supplement like this? Especially if you're dealing with real health issues, gut problems, maybe you suspect parasites.
Yeah, this is the most important, actionable advice from the source, and it's something we absolutely have to emphasize. If you're dealing with gut or parasite issues, it's always best to talk to a doctor first.
Yeah.
Always.
Don't self-diagnose or self-treat with supplements.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These are potentially serious medical concerns. They require proper diagnosis, proper testing, and often specific evidence-based treatment from a qualified healthcare professional. Relying on an unproven supplement like Parapurge isn't just potentially ineffective. It could actually delay you getting the proper diagnosis and treatment you need for a condition that might need real medical attention.
That's a really crucial point. And beyond just this one product, Parapurge, what's the sort of broader advice for approaching the supplement market in general?
Well, the caution definitely extends across the board. Be careful with supplements like this, especially ones that rely more on marketing than medical evidence.
Right.
Look, this isn't about dismissing all natural remedies out of hand.
Right.
It's about being discerning. It's about demanding transparency, demanding actual evidence. It means understanding that slick marketing can create a really compelling story, but that story is no substitute for scientific proof. Ultimately, it just boils down to personal due diligence. Always do your homework.
How can people do that practically?
Look for independent scientific studies, not just what the company links to, if they link to anything at all. Check for reputable third-party certifications. Things like NSF or USP seals can offer some assurance about quality and contents, though not efficacy.
Okay.
And critically evaluate reviews. Look for reviews on independent sites, not just the seller's page. Your health is just far too important to gamble on slick marketing and vague promises.
That's a powerful and, essential message for anyone trying to navigate the supplement world. So today we've unpacked the claims around Parapurge, hopefully clarified that crucial difference between traditional use and real modern scientific proof. We've highlighted some of those red flags: marketing over substance, questionable reviews, drop shipping,
Hmm.
and reinforced why talking to your doctor first is just non-negotiable when it comes to actual health concerns. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the sometimes murky waters of natural health supplements.
Yeah, thanks for listening. And maybe as we close out, here's a final thought to consider. In this world that's just overflowing with health claims, instant online shopping, maybe the real detox we all need is actually just learning to sift through all that information more effectively, becoming a more informed, maybe a little more skeptical, and definitely a more empowered consumer when it comes to your own health. So the question back to you is, the next time you encounter one of these bold health claims, what steps will you take to verify it before you buy in?